Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
Bandwidth for the Tech Guy is provided by CacheFly. CacheFly.com. Hi, this is Leo Laporte, and this is the video version of my Tech Guy podcast. We cut it down because we don't want to give you 6 hours of video. This is Saturday and Sunday, January 22nd and 23rd, episodes 737 and 738. Enjoy. Well, a good day to you. Leo Laporte here, the Tech Guy, and it's time to talk about computers, the internet, cell phones, camcorders, MP3 players, all that stuff. The list gets longer all the time. Everything's got a chip in it these days. Digital photography, surround sound. I saw an amazing demonstration. This is a perfect example of how chips are changing everything. When I was at CES a couple of weeks ago, and I hope you heard our CES shows. If you didn't, they're available in podcast form. On my Twit podcast network at twit.tv. It's in the specials feed, actually, but there's also the radio shows are there as well. Actually, they're on Tech Guy Labs, too, our radio show site. It's all available. But anyway, it was the last thing, actually, I saw before I left Las Vegas on Sunday afternoon. Scott Wilkinson and I, we said one last chance to kind of find something cool and new and different at CES. We'd seen all the 3D TVs. He'd gone over to see the high-end audio at the Venetian. You know, I'm less interested in high-end audio. I'm less interested, I guess, from a theoretical point of view, but I'm not going to spend $20,000 on a pair of speakers. And I don't know very many people who will. That's a hardcore enthusiast, not a normal you and me. He said, you know, I heard there was something in surround sound that was kind of interesting, and I'd like to go see it. And I said, oh, you mean the higher? And he said, yes. And I said, well, let's go. There's a Swiss company called, I think it's Sonic Emotion. And they make a chip. They don't make speakers. They make a chip which they sell to speaker manufacturers that take a stereo two-speaker system or maybe a six-speaker. You know, now they have these sound bars sometimes you can put in front of your TV. And they use very sophisticated digital technology to take those basically stereo systems, they're in front of you left and right, and fill the room with surround sound, be able to play stuff behind you, above you, below you, 30 degrees off center and 15 degrees above the horizon, anywhere in this sphere that surrounds you. They call it the sound stage. And I'm always skeptical. We've seen a lot of sound bars in the past, and they're really a way for people who don't have the space or the money to do a 5, 6, 7, 8 speaker system to kind of simulate it, I guess. So I was a little skeptical, but I'd heard such good things from my friend Robert Heron, who is a home theater expert. Scott himself had heard really interesting reports about this. So we went over to the Sonic Emotion booth, and they had a $100 Kobe speak. Now, Kobe, C-O-B-Y, if you know the name, is a really kind of a low-end audio-video company. They make very inexpensive cameras and stuff. This kind of stuff you see at Target or Walgreens, inexpensive stuff. They had a $100 sound bar. And then higher, which is not next tier up, they're not the high-end audio, but they had a $350 sound bar. Small thing, wasn't much bigger than a clock radio, sits in front of your TV. And in the booth, it was great. It was actually a great demo. They had a booth with a button, big red button. And if you walk up to the button and you press it, it goes to the stereo mode. It just turns off the Sonic Emotion chip, and the speakers are doing what they would do without any help from digital signal processing or any of the sophisticated electronics. And it sounds kind of, frankly, like tinny speakers right in front of me. You let go of the button, and whoom, the room fills. There's sound coming from all around you. It was mind-boggling. That was $350. So I went around the corner. Okay, well, how does this do with the Kobe? That's $100. Same thing. Unbelievable. It went from tinny stereo to surround sound. Now, I imagine, and Scott was impressed, and he knows his home theater. I imagine somebody who's like a home theater aficionado would say, "Oh, Leo, oh, please, Leo, don't call that surround sound. That's not surround." But I was very impressed. Kobe's selling theirs right now. Hire's going to sell theirs in a few months. And this Swiss company, Sonic Emotion, is going to be selling their chip to other companies. And if, as you get higher end and you put them in, say, let's say a Polk Audio soundbar with really nice speakers, this is a really great thing. It just gives you I was very impressed. The reason I bring it up is this is an example of how chips change everything. The chips they're selling are digital signal processors. They work with analog signals, but it's still a computer brain taking information and in real time, it has to do it very quickly, obviously, making such major transformations that it changes everything. Chips change everything. And it just blew me away. So that's really what this show is about, is how things change when you move to the digital domain, what you can do with them. Just think about your vinyl records. Some of you will remember those. If you wanted to duplicate it, you would dub it to a tape. And every time you made a copy of that tape, it would sound worse and worse and worse and worse. In fact, every time you played the vinyl record, it would sound worse and worse and worse and worse. As soon as we were able to take this audio, this analog audio, these little wiggly waveforms, and turn them into ones and zeros, that stopped, right? Now, maybe there was a little bit of degradation in the digitizing process, the getting from the little wiggly waves to ones and zeros. And it's true. There's a little bit, mostly inaudible. In fact, in my opinion, at least for people like us, unless you have golden ears, completely inaudible. Only theoretically do you know that there's stuff missing. I mean, it's pretty good. But once you make it ones and zeros, now, what can you do? Well, you can transmit it at the speed of light. Couldn't do that with vinyl. You can make infinite perfect copies. Couldn't do that with vinyl, much to the chagrin of the record companies. You can modify it. You can edit it easily. You can mash it up with other music easily. That's why all of a sudden in the 80s and 90s, as computers came along, we started to see more and more of these mashups where people would take songs, match beats, do some interesting stuff. Once they're bits, the sky's the limit. So that's what this show is about, really. Phone number is 8888 Ask Leo. If you want to ask a question, make a comment, make a suggestion, tell me about something cool you saw. Tell me about something neat going on in your life, some great idea you've had. When we were also at CES, we talked to the guy who invented VisiCalc, the first spreadsheet program. He created the idea of a spreadsheet program, Bob Frankston. And he says it's time to take back the internet. He said that the phone companies and the cable companies have no interest in giving us the internet we deserve. Of course they don't. Why would they? Their chief interest is making as much money as they can off the existing infrastructure. But he says there's an interesting problem here for them, especially for the cable companies. They see their business dissolving in front of their eyes. Why do you think Comcast just bought NBC? Because they want to get in the content business. Comcast had divested all their, they had Liberty Media. They had a big content division, which they got rid of in the 90s because they didn't want to be in content. They thought, the money will be in the cable. And 1,000 content providers will compete for access to our customers. Well, the internet changed all that, didn't it? And now it's the people who make the stuff that are in the driver's seat because there's 1,000 ways to deliver it, all via the internet. And Comcast realizes it can't make as much money as an internet company selling wholesale bits as it can as a cable company selling premium content. So Bob says this is an opportunity for us to take back the internet. Take back that old copper they don't want anymore. They're getting out of the copper business. Maybe we can do something with it. We don't need to have we don't have the same maybe community internet or even apartment building internet or neighborhood internet. Those are the ideas I love to hear about. 8888 Ask Leo. Some big changes this week. We'll talk about Steve Jobs stepping down. We'll talk about Eric Schmidt stepping down. I think he was fired at Google. What really happened at Google? We'll talk about that. Big shakeup at Hewlett-Packard and their board of directors. This was an interesting week for these big computer companies. And of course, Keith Olbermann got fired, but that's another story. Although, it might not be another story. it does seem a little coincidental that this happened right at the time that was it Jeff Zucker, the president of NBC, leaves, Comcast takes over. No, Comcast says, no, we wouldn't do that. This could all be part and parcel of the same thing. Let's talk about it. 8888 Ask Leo. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. This is show 737. Yes, they're sequentially numbered. It's just a coincidence. I don't name the shows after airplanes. This is 737 shows. Started counting them in January 2004, so it's 7 years worth of shows, right? Yeah. 737. That's not right. Oh, yeah, 100 shows, 104 shows a year. Yeah, that makes sense. That does make sense. But I've been doing it for longer than that. I started doing computer talk radio and then computer television in the early 90s. So I think this is my 20th year doing this stuff. Things have changed in 20 years. Holy moly. 8888 Ask Leo. That's the phone number. My old friend Jan from Beverly Hills with the Dog Podcast. Hey, Jan.
Let me get off this.
Yeah. What's that? You changed because we couldn't say her podcast name on the radio.
We changed the name of it.
Thanks to the FCC. It's not even thanks to the FCC. It's thanks to, just general terror incurred by the FCC because the B word for a female dog is a perfectly legitimate word.
Yes, it is. And I am the Hollywood one.
But that was the name. Now what do you call it?
It was the Hollywood. Dogsandcats101.com.
I like that.
And my new web series one is afterthehutch.info. It's about the Playboy bunnies now.
Oh, that's interesting. Were you a Playboy bunny, Jan?
Yes, for like 10 years.
You were in the clubs?
I opened the New York club. I worked in Miami, Chicago, nights. I worked with Lauren Hutton, Deborah Harry, Gloria Steinem.
Wow,
yeah.
That's so cool, Jan.
If you go there, you see it. You know what? I put it out yesterday about it. That wasn't why I was calling. But anyway, I put it out yesterday about it, and my site got knocked down several times. And I always hear you talk about that. What is that about?
Well, first of all, give me the site because I want to go. Is it Inside the Hutch?
Yeah, After the Hutch.
After the Hutch.
I couldn't get .com, .info. After the Hutch.
After the Hutch.
Bunny Hutch.
Because it's that's so cool.
Yeah, so I'm going to do a web series, and coincidentally, there's an NBC show coming out about the bunnies in the 60s and 70s then. And mine is actually a web series.
It's funny because when Playboy, when I was a young man, was considered very adult, and nowadays it's almost tame compared to what's out there now.
But
Jan, so you were a Playboy bunny for 6 years.
Like 10 years.
10 years. And there's a picture. Is that you on the front?
Yes.
Adorable.
How cute was I?
How cute were you? That is adorable. Oh, that's so cute.
I was a bunny in Miami, and I lied. It was 16. I was 16 years old. It was summer vacation, and I went there, and they found out. And I was, went back to school. And then when the New York club opened, I worked there when I was 18. You could only work days. And then after I had my son, I went away, came back, and I worked nights for years.
Isn't that cute?
Yeah.
Well, I didn't know that about you, Jan. So that's and you're doing a webisodes on those, yeah?
Yes, I was trying to do a sitcom about it, but then I thought, you know what? Do a web series, I can do it myself. And
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is a good time because one of the things Hef just announced, Hef, like my good friend Hef, one of the things Hef just announced is that Playboy is going to be on the iPad, and everybody said, what, did Apple change their rules? And then it came out that, well, yeah, it is, but it's going to be a web page. So you'll be able to look at all the old Playboys and the new on the web.
Yeah, the magazines. Now, everybody should know I wasn't a Playmate. I had my clothes on.
Yes. There is a difference, isn't there?
There is a difference. Yes, there is a difference.
And now I recognize you. Here's a picture, and I recognize you in the middle there. That's so cute.
Yeah, up at the top, there's me with a camera because I'm a director. You'll see, that's me now.
This is great. Well, Jan, all this time we've talked, and I had no idea.
Yeah, well, I wasn't wearing my ears.
So, okay, answer your question. which isn't actually the main question, but I'll answer your question about websites going down, because it is probably something that concerns people. You cannot design and wouldn't want it. It's like building a highway for the day that, the Super Bowl, the Macy's Day Parade, and the presidential inauguration are all going to be at the end of that highway. Mm-hmm. Most of the time, it's just a country road. So you don't build the pipe to your internet site, your web page, as if it's always going to have a huge amount of traffic. You buy a certain amount of access, a certain amount of connectivity, and no company would itself spend all that money. So what happens is, if you get a really heavy traffic day, there's a traffic jam. That's all that happens, is that not everyone who wants to see the site can, because it's not designed for what they call high availability. That's what it's called. Now, a site like Amazon or AOL or Google is designed for high availability. It takes a lot more to bring them down, but even they can be brought down by a sudden surge in traffic. And in fact, that's what a denial of service attack is. It's a bunch of people using their machines to merely visit a site all at the same time, and by doing so, shut the site down. But if it's a site like Amazon, they, of course, plan for a lot of traffic. You can also buy, and it's not affordable, so I'm not recommending this for after the hutch, but you can also buy insurance for something like this, which essentially says if your needs for bandwidth suddenly go skyrocketing through the roof, we'll provide a bigger pipe for you instantly. But that in itself is costly. It's just not worth it. It's great. When your site goes down, it means a lot of people wanted to see it. It, of course, is a little scary because you hope that they will come back after not being able to get in. Sometimes you don't get that second chance.
Yeah. And then I actually put up my web series, and that'll be a different thing. We're just developing it now.
Well, and that's why you put it on YouTube, because that never happens to YouTube. YouTube, they know they're going to, this is Super Bowl every day at YouTube.
And it took a couple hours, but it was back up again. I never called anyone.
No, it goes down because a lot of people are hitting it. You probably got mentioned in an article. Right.
Well, I Twittered about after the hutch.
Okay, so you have enough Twitter followers that they were able to bring it down. That's all. You did a denial of service to yourself.
Right.
Now, there are companies like Squarespace, as an example, who build their infrastructure in such a way that they can handle this. Normally you have what's called shared server, whereas there's 1,000, sometimes 1,000 websites on one computer. Now, if any one of those sites gets busy, all of the sites get slow. Companies like Squarespace do load balancing and do automatic bandwidth enhancements when the demand goes up. So there are internet service providers, I guess web hosts, who very specifically will say, "Hey, don't worry about it. We have a way of handling it." But it's not, it requires on their part a bigger investment in infrastructure and some thinking about that. And for the most part, this doesn't happen because most people just don't get that much traffic.
Right. Well, I do have a Squarespace account. I'm still learning it.
It will never go down.
Right.
I've tried it. You cannot bring it down. Hey, Jan, hang on the line because I know you have a real question. I got all sucked into that bunny discussion. We'll give you a little more time right after the break. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Dogs and Cats 101. And after the hutch, I almost said inside the hutch. After the hutch.info. Hi, Jan.
Hi.
So I answered your non-question. Now, what's your real question?
I'm going to China, to Beijing in October to work with the pandas.
Oh, man. Jan, you got a great life.
Well, sort of. No.
Can you train a panda?
Anyway.
I mean, I know you're an expert dog trainer. Can you train a panda?
No, it's a thing where they let you go there and go in and work with the pandas and spend a week in Beijing.
Have you been to China before?
No.
My son Henry and I went there last summer. You're going to love it.
That's why I was calling, because what do I have? An iPhone 4, I have an iPad. I mean, what do I bring?
I would certainly bring well, first of all, the hotel you're in will almost, if it's a decent hotel, unless you're staying in the Hutong, if you're staying in a hotel, we'll have Wi-Fi. And so I used my iPhone, and I didn't have an iPad at the time, and my laptop with the Wi-Fi. Great. In fact, I was able to use the Wi-Fi there to Skype home and save myself a lot of money.
Really?
Yeah. Now, the rules change all the time in China, and they may be blocking Skype that day. When I got there, for instance, this was July 2009, I could use Twitter. I could use Facebook. By the time I left 10 days later, I couldn't use either. And
do I have to do something with my phone so I don't get a lot of expensive
yes,
phones?
you want to call AT&T,
Uh-huh.
and you want to buy an international data plan. And by the way, the cost, if you don't, the cost of data roaming, if you use the Chinese phone company's data, is sky high, thousands of dollars. So it's roughly $1 a megabyte. You call. I'm going to do this too because I'm going to South America in a couple of weeks, and I'll call them and I'll say I want the. Now you got to figure out you're going to be there a week. You got to kind of monitor your usage really closely. 100 megabytes is probably enough. That's about $100.
Right. And what about using like Google Voice? Go to my Gmail. You know how you do that?
Anything you do online, Google Voice, Twitter, Facebook, checking email, all of that uses international data at a very high price. So your 100 megabytes is your pool, and that's up and down. So if you decide, this is what really ends up costing me. I upload pictures, audio, movies. Man, that ends up costing a lot.
Wow.
So both directions you're paying for. So now there is a usage app on the iPhone, but don't believe it. I did, and I got dinged heavy. When I got back, I called AT&T, so you could turn that international plan off. How much did I spend? It was double the amount that the iPhone said. So there's an AT&T wireless app which you want to put on there and use that. They say that's accurate. No, I don't know about that. The problem is really that there's a lag between the time you use the data and the time the Chinese telecoms notify AT&T. And so, I don't know. You'd think the phone would know exactly how many bits are going in and out, but apparently it doesn't.
Right. Okay. Well, and I have an Air, 11-inch Air, but I'm afraid to take that.
It's fine to bring it because you'll only be able to use that with Wi-Fi. So there's in the hotel there's Wi-Fi. So what you want to do is whenever possible use the Wi-Fi. You're already that's much less expensive.
Oh right. Oh, and I can do that also with my iPad.
With the iPad, the iPhone, and the Air, all can use Wi-Fi. It's the 3G data that gets you in trouble, and this is true all over the world. Call your phone company and say, what is the cost of roaming data? And they will tell you, and it's a lot more expensive than using it at home. So you have, in AT&T's case, they do have an international data plan, which is still expensive, much more, $1 a megabyte. It's ridiculous, but it's a lot less than it'll cost. And if you go over, they start charging you at the full rate.
Great, and I hope they speak a lot of English.
They do. The English is something that the Chinese really want to learn because they want to play in the international economic scene.
Nice.
You're going to love it. Eat food like crazy. Be careful where you eat. Eat in fancy restaurants if you can. John C. Dvorak, my good friend, the computer and wine expert, told me about a Peking duck place. He said, but you don't want to go in the daytime because it's too disgusting. You have to go when it's dark so you can't see. And I asked our guide, I said, well, this is where he says the best Peking duck in Beijing is. And the guide said, yeah, but I wouldn't go there if I were you. He said, I eat there, but I'm used to it now. So we went to, believe it or not, the Hyatt in Beijing and had an amazing Peking duck. It's interesting because I have this notion of China being a agrarian nation, communist. There is an absolute wealthy elite in China, and there are a lot of very expensive. There's a fancy restaurant designed by Philippe Starck. It's amazing. I mean, it's incredible. I don't know, who's going there. The Plutarchs, I guess, or whatever, plutocrats. But somebody's going there, and it's worth it if you can to go to some nice restaurants because you will never have better food. I mean, Chinese invented haute cuisine.
Not dogs and cats.
You may. I don't know if you like Chinese food, but it's not like we get in America. Let me put it this way: it is very good, and the culture, and it's fascinating, and the smog is appalling, and it might not be so bad in October, but it was it reminded me of the. They talked about the London fogs of the early 19th century. It's like that. You think at first you think it's weather, then you realize, wait a minute, this isn't weather. This is the air. It's thick.
Right. Well, I'll let you know how it goes.
Have a great time. I think it is absolutely the most interesting country in the world right now.
Right.
And you're getting to see the pandas. I'm so jealous. What fun. Thank you, Jan. Jay in Providence, North Carolina. Hi, Jay. Leo Laporte, the tech guy.
Hey, Leo, I've got a short but two-part question for you. How do you feel about the practice of websites selling aggregate user data? And if you do feel kind of good about it, what would be a good way to go about doing that if you...
Well, they all do it, first of all. You know, if you... I mean, look, this is how Facebook makes money. This is how Google makes money. They don't sell individual data. At least we don't know, but we don't think. They claim they don't sell individual data. Actually, I'll tell you a story that'll raise the hair on the back of your neck in a little bit. But in theory, they only sell aggregate data. So they say, you want 25 to 50-year-olds who live in the Northwest? We can sell that. We don't tell you their names, but we can make sure they see the ads. As an individual, it's not so easy to do. Is somebody approaching you about doing that?
No, I'm putting together, well, I should say I'm considering putting together a website. I've got the domain name registered. In fact, I've actually got several registered, but it's one of those things I feel like if I can make money, more money than...
Yeah, the way to do it is not, you know, there's nobody who's going to, there's no broker who's going to say, yeah, tell us everything about your users. But if you put Google Ads on there, and that's what people do, they use AdSense. That is the webmaster's version of Google AdWords. You put Google, it's very easy to do. You can do it in 3 seconds if you go to Google and I guess google.com/AdSense, set up an account. You won't make a huge amount of money, but you make some money. Depends on the number of people who visit your site. In effect, you're selling Google aggregate visitor data because those ads embedded on your page report back to Google who's visiting. You don't know a lot about your users. If you collect information more than just the fact that they're visiting, if you collect email addresses and so forth, you've got to be very clear. If you plan to sell that stuff, you've got to be very clear. That is wrong. I know sites do it. It's wrong to share email addresses or any other information that you collect. You'll know one thing about everybody who visits your site. That's their IP address, which roughly pinpoints them. You could set a cookie on their browser that will then identify them uniquely. This is what Google does. This is what most everybody does. What I don't like is sites that aggregate information, you know, from forms and things. My email address, my age, my income, and then sell it to other sites which aggregate further information. Pretty soon, you're a consumer with a target on your back walking around. Not fond of that. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. 8888. Ask Leo. That's the number. That's the number Karen called from Huntington Beach, California. Hi, Karen. Leo Laporte here.
Hi there. I'm so glad to talk with you. I'm one of the non-techie people that loves your show anyway.
Thank you. Yeah, you know, we need to get everybody to listen. I can't just stick with the techies. So thank you. Thank you. Thank you. What can I do to help you?
I'm calling about a very non-technical question, and that is I do a lot of reports for my work, and primarily I use the computer for those. And I use QuickBooks, and then I save all my travel pictures. And it's time for me to get a new desktop computer, and I'm real interested in what you'd recommend.
Unfortunately, QuickBooks, and I mean this, requires Internet Explorer, which means, you know, you have to use Windows. QuickBooks Online, or use QuickBooks on Windows? I should say only QuickBooks Online requires IE.
Windows.
Oh, okay. So you could use. Okay, so that's the software version. But you do still need Windows. The only, pretty much, you know, PCs are PCs, to be honest with you. I'm a Dell fan, but Dell has as many problems as anybody else. HP tends to load their machines up with junk, which I'm not fond of, but you can get rid of it. You know, are you going to get a laptop or a desktop? Do you know?
I've got a laptop, but I'm going to get a desktop this time.
Okay. I think Dell has some very good-looking all-in-one desktops that are not too expensive. I caution anybody about, you know, sometimes you look at these prices and you see the loss leaders, you know, the $400 or $500 computers, and I caution you a little bit about being too cheap. Mostly because they cut corners to get that price down. And sometimes they have a Windows Starter Edition instead of the full edition. Sometimes they don't have much memory in them, or the drives are small, or more likely they'll use slower chips, and they're just slower. They're just not, you know, and they're not as well made. So consider, you know, it used to be we said the computer you want is always $2,500. That's a lot less now. It's about $1,000. I would say you're going to spend $1,000 though. Don't get a $400 computer. That would be my biggest advice.
Alrighty.
Yeah.
And it sounds as though you were thinking Mac.
Well, I'd like to point people towards Macs if possible for several reasons. One, most importantly, they're less of a security risk. They're not nearly the number. In fact, really, there aren't any attacks against Macs unless they're specifically against individuals. There's no widespread attacks against Macs. And I think in many cases, Macs are better built. They are more expensive. And that's one of the reasons they're more expensive. But you can't run QuickBooks on one. You can't, it's funny, Walt Mossberg of the Wall Street Journal said, the best Windows machine is a Mac. And it's true that you can run Windows on Macintoshes, but you have to buy Windows, which is a cost.
Yes.
So I would say it's fine to get it. You've been using Windows. It sounds like you kind of want to get more do more stuff than you used to do. You want to kind of get into computers a little bit.
No, not particularly. It's just that I want to get a good computer for my money, and I need it to last for a while.
I'll tell you, I put my money where my mouth is when I equip my office, and of course in the office, they're using QuickBooks. They need Windows. I buy Dells.
Okay.
And I think Dells are very robust, very reliable. The desktops, they make very affordable desktops. Here's a couple of things I'd say. Get 4 gigs of RAM. Sometimes they sell 2. 4 is really what you want. You don't need more, but 4 is good. I would say get the biggest screen you can afford. It's amazing how much productivity the screen can really enhance your productivity, a big screen.
Yes.
I would say hard drive size for you is, if you're just putting pictures on it, is probably not going to be an issue. You're going to get almost certainly at least 500 gigs, which is a lot.
Okay.
And then I would say probably the processor you're looking at is an i5, an Intel i5.
Okay.
If you really want to save money, you could get an i3 or a Core 2. They're still selling those, but I'm going to future-proof you a little bit and say get an i5.
Okay. Yeah, I was thinking about a Mac, and I really like the little ones where you don't have as much machine.
They're beautiful. The MacBook Airs, they're gorgeous.
They're really beautiful, but I realize it would be more difficult to transfer all my information.
There is QuickBooks for Mac. It's just a different license, and frankly, it's not in the same category as QuickBook for Windows.
Okay.
So if you really, it sounds like QuickBooks is your primary thing.
Well, QuickBooks and Word.
Word's available on the Mac, and it's identical. It was pretty much identical.
So which one on the Mac would you recommend if you like
the, look, the MacBook Air is the best computer of the year, in my opinion.
Which one?
It's called the Air. That's the little thin one. It's a laptop. It's not a desktop.
Okay.
But it's tiny. But it's so light. It's what I carry with me everywhere. It's replaced all my other computers. It only has 64 gigs of disk space, so you have to keep stuff in the cloud. That'd be, and running Windows on it, you can, by the way, and it runs Windows beautifully, but you don't have so much storage, so it's like having Windows is going to take up even a bigger chunk of what is already limited.
Yeah.
I think, it's very prosaic. It's very beige box, but just get a Dell,
All right.
And if you want sexy, put aside $1,000 and get a MacBook Air. Most people don't. You're not the. I think there's 2 kinds of users. There's the users of computers who think of them as a tool, and there's the users who are enthusiasts who think of them as a toy. You're clearly a tool user. This is a productivity tool for you.
Oh, and it's a wonderful tool for me because I remember the days when I was doing clerical work and had to use the carbon paper.
Oh yeah, this is a huge improvement.
And I did my master's thesis on a typewriter.
Right. No, I agree. This is, and I'm the same vintage as you, and this is a huge step forward. And that's why when I look at the Air, I go, "Wow, it's a supercomputer that weighs 2 pounds."
But that is a desktop, you said?
No, that's a laptop. Yeah. So and Apple sells these, iMacs, which are I think very nice desktops. That's my preferred desktop, but they're pricey compared to a PC.
Yeah.
You're paying, I would say in general, you pay about 50% more for a Macintosh than you do for a PC.
Okay. Thank you, Leo.
Thanks for the call. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
And
Bye.
Have fun. And if you have problems, you know where to go. 8888 Ask Leo. The Air is for the toy people, the enthusiast side, not the tool people. I mean, it's a great tool. I shouldn't say that. It's a great tool. But it's just it's for people who look at computers and go, ooh. If you look at a computer and say that's replacing carbon paper spreadsheets and a typewriter, you're using it as a tool, then it doesn't, it's going to only last a few weeks, and then you're going to say, well, how is it working as a tool for me? Same thing with the iPad. iPad has a lot of appeal. I'm not going to call it sex appeal because that's a terrible word to use for computer hardware, but it has appeal. But it is not. It is more for consuming content than for creating content. And I would hate to try to do my books on an iPad. That'd be the last thing I'd recommend. Let's go to Lake Superior, Wisconsin. I'm sorry, Michigan. And Ted. Hey, Ted.
Hey, how you doing, Leo? Listen to a lot of your CES coverage and watch some of it, and it's very good.
Thank you. We had a blast there.
Yeah, it sounded like it. Hey, Leo, I have a question about Slingbox and one about what the newest Verizon hardware would be to get now. So with a better camera, I have a Droid X right now, but I have one of my other phones are up, and I was wondering, other than the iPhone, I want to wait for the 5. I have a lot of phones, and I'll be replacing most of them in the next 6-8 months.
You're a man after my own heart, a cell phone fanatic.
Exactly. Well, you know what? You remember the old Red Fox show there, the Junkyard Show?
Yeah. I'm coming,
Wheelie. We used to go over in the cabinet looking for glasses all the time.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I am.
That's one way not to lose a phone is to have 12 of them. So I think you're right. The iPhone 5 will come out in June. The iPhone 4 has the best camera on any cell phone. I think that the Samsung Galaxy series 5 megapixels are very good as well. The Droid X, a lot of this is the software and the lens. The Droid X is 8 megapixels, but you probably noticed there's a lot of flaring in the pictures I've found. They're not as crisp, they're not as high def as the 5 megapixel pictures coming out of the iPhone 4. A great way to do this, by the way, is to go to Flickr and search for the phone model you're interested in. Lots of people posting their camera phone pictures on Flickr, and you can see a whole bunch of pictures taken with any given camera phone. And that's a really great way to judge them. I think the Galaxy is very close to the iPhone 4. I'll be very curious to see what Apple does with the iPhone 5. Thanks for the call. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Leo Laporte, 8888 Ask Leo. Our gadget guru, Dick DeBartolo, will join us in just a little bit, but I was talking with Brian in Providence. Still looking for work, Brian, or have you found it?
No, I'm a year and a half into the pit here in Rhode Island.
I know unemployment's very high in Rhode Island right now.
Oh, it's ridiculous, and this is what's prompting my call. I have 2 questions, and then I want to put you on the spot.
Okay.
One, I have the exact same gear that I think everybody else is using. I actually have your pretty Gold Heel PR40, and I have the M-Audio, a Mackie mixer. I'm trying to do some photographer and model interviews. I'm a professional photographer, and I also have 27 years in IT and MCP and yada, 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 which is worthless anymore. But what I'm trying to do is understand how to use the Logitech on the Mac. Only because
there's no specific drivers for it, but it does work.
Yeah.
So you can't control a lot of the features, which is a shame. Some of the Logitech cameras do have drivers for the Mac. For some reason, the latest, best ones, the C510, does not.
Well, I have the C910.
Same thing. No Mac drivers.
Right, and I'm using eyeglasses, which is what I understand is the only way to do it. But I don't know if that's given me high res. I'm trying to put together a simple podcast where I'm going to be interviewing photographers and models for a website called One Model Place.
I love that idea. Now, the only reason you'd need the C510 or 910 is if you wanted to stream it live. Is that your goal?
Yes, on Justin.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, if you want... a number of my hosts on my podcast use that camera with Max, including
Right.
Steve Gibson. I think that Jeff Jarvis and Gina do, and it works fine out of the box. You just can't control it.
Okay, fair enough. I mean, I can control it with eyeglasses. I didn't know if you
That's
guys...
yeah. If you want addition, I don't know eyeglasses, but we just let them use it by as is.
Yeah. Okay, the second part of the Logitech question is there anything other than multicast for $500 where I can use 2 of these Logitechs or 3?
Yeah, they're all fairly expensive. You can try them for free in most cases. VidBlaster, Wirecast, which I think is what you meant when you said multicast, and Boinks TV. All 3 of them have free versions, however. But yeah, they're expensive. You know, duplicating what I do on my podcast network is non-trivial. It's the secret sauce, and it's doable. It's just expensive. And I've put, I don't know, several $1 million into it by now. So, you know, if you look at what I'm doing and say, I'd like to duplicate that, you're going to start a little slower in the long run. Dick D. Bartolo's here, Mad Magazine's maddest writer and the Gizwiz. Hey, Dickie D.
Leo, how you doing, pal?
I am very well. How are you?
Good. Did you get an aisle seat going back? That's the only thing I need to know.
Yes, I did. Thank you. You know how that worked? It was great. I don't know if it was you who told me to do this, but this is a great tip. It has nothing to do with tech, but it's a great tip. If you're flying on an airline that you don't have gold, but you'd like to get a better seat than the one that you've been assigned, and in my case, middle seats all the way, just go up to the desk at the gate agent and say, "Hey, I know, I'm nothing special." Be very nice when you do this. I'm nothing special. But I know you're also going to be bumping some gold members up into first and business. When you do, can I have their seat? Because they've got good seats. They've got exit rows, aisles.
Yes.
And so those seats are actually going to be vacated. And if you're nice about it, they'll give you the seats. On the way out, I got a beautiful seat with lots of legroom on the window. And on the way back, same thing. So, yes, the answer is your technique works. Just ask the gate agent and be nice. And you know what Johnny Jett says, our travel expert? Bring a box of chocolates.
Oh, that's a great idea.
He has chocolates with him every time he travels.
That's a great idea. It's little perks you give away.
Yeah,
I carry a half a dozen Mad magazines. That's my box of chocolate.
There you go. That's very nice. Yeah. So that really worked really well.
I also called up and I canceled 3 elite first class tickets so that there'd be plenty of seats.
This was on Delta, and actually I do want to thank Delta because that was very nice of them. They made it very easy for me to fly back, even though I had, gosh, that's the worst thing I ever heard of is a red-eye flight to New York City in the middle. The middle.
No. I'll take the luggage rack.
Yeah, I'd rather have the luggage rack. So Dick usually has a great gadget for us. He is a Mad Magazine's maddest writer, well known in those circles, but also a complete gadget hound for years. And we do a podcast called The Daily Gizwiz, in which he reveals crazy gadgets, and we like to bring one to the radio show as well. What do you have for us today?
Okay, well, today is not too crazy because it's a gadget, and what brought it up is someone just sent me an email about how this saved their lives for them. It's from Western Digital. It's their Live Wire Powerline AV Network Kit.
Oh, I've never used this, and I've always wondered how good it is.
Yes, and he had the same problem I did. I have no Wi-Fi in my apartment. I have Wi-Fi in the studio. I tried a thing called the Orb to send it wirelessly, and it worked fine with the doors open, with the doors closed. I was trying to get Netflix in my back apartment.
So in other words, because the walls probably in your old apartment building, they probably have metal in them, then that Wi-Fi just won't go through it.
Yes. Exactly, and the doors are metal at both ends.
Right.
So I decided to try the Live Wire Powerline AV kit. The one thing that they tell you over and over, and they are correct, each end of the kit has to be plugged directly into a wall socket. No extension cords, no universal power supplies, but you plug one unit into the place where your Wi-Fi is, and then you run a cable from your router to the back of that unit. The other unit goes wherever you want, in my case, in my back apartment. And into that, I plugged my Roku box, and then I plugged my flat screen TV into my Roku box. And now I have streaming video in my back apartment.
This is great because we had a caller earlier who was on Wi-Fi, and I should have suggested this as a solution, but the truth is I don't have any experience with it. And in the past, Powerline networking has been pretty iffy. So it works well, he said.
It works well, and the difference of this, Belkin makes one where you just get one Wi-Fi line going to your back apartment. When you plug this in, you're actually plugging in a mini router. So my Roku box is plugged in back there, but I still have 3 empty USB hubs where I can plug other stuff in.
And do you know what kind of speed? Have you done a speed test?
You know what? I have not done a speed test. My only speed test is I have watched 13 old Alfred Hitchcock TV episodes flawlessly.
No buffering, no pauses. All right.
No buffering, no nothing. I haven't done any high-def movies, but for black and white, it's flawless.
How much?
The list price is, I believe, $149, and if you do a search around, you can just get it at the $100 mark.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
Go to gizwiz.biz. Yes, that's a web address. gizwiz.biz for Dick's website, where he has lots of gadgets and also a great contest that can win you an autographed copy of Mad Magazine. He calls it "What the Heck Is It?" And frankly, it's easier to win by making up an answer than by getting it right. So don't be threatened. Truthfully, it's not the people who get it right. It's people who come up with crazy, wacky answers that really
That's
win.
my life, crazy, wacky.
The crazy, wacky GizWiz at gizwiz.biz. Dan in Reedsburg, Wisconsin. Hi, Dan. Leo Laporte, the tech guy.
Good day, sir.
Good day.
I've got a Mac Mini. It's about a little over 5 years old, and it's been getting slow, of course, because the huge 80-gig hard drive is about full. So I want to replace the hard drive with a bigger hard drive. After I do that, I want to start clean slate. How do I start the operating system back up? I have all the original disks.
You just do the same thing that you would do even if you weren't replacing the hard drive, which is there's 2 ways to do it. One, stick the hard drive, the install disk in, double-click the installer, and it'll reboot. The other is to reboot the machine with the CD and the drive and hold down the C key. On a Macintosh, if you're holding down the C key and there's a bootable disk in the CD drive, it will boot from it. And then make sure when you go to start to install the operating system, you choose options and say, I want to do a clean install. Thanks for the call, Dan. Thank you for being here. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Have a great Geek Week. Well, a good day to you. How are you today? Leo Laporte here, the tech guy. And we are here to talk about computers, the internet, cell phones, camcorders, MP3 players, home theater, everything happening in the world of tech. I guess we're going to talk about Steve Jobs. I guess we have to talk about Steve. This was a really weird week for CEOs, and a couple of board members fired at HP. Google's CEO Eric Schmidt fired. Fired is a strong word. Pushed out, forced out. I think that's pretty clear. They didn't say that that's what happened, but I think it's pretty clear that it was very unusual that the founder of a company. Normally, what happens? I talked about this yesterday. Normally, what happens is you found a company, a tech startup. Usually, there's 2 founders. There's often the kind of the visionary product guy, the programmer, and then there's a business person. I don't know if that was the case with Google. Google was started by 2 Stanford graduate students, Larry Page and Sergey Brin, about 12 years ago now, I guess. And Larry Page, I think, was a guy who created the key element to the success of Google. They call it PageRank for that reason. It's a little pun because, of course, they rank the pages they find on the internet based on how many other pages are linking to them, but it happens to be Larry's last name as well. Page, get it, PageRank. So Larry and Sergey ran the company for the first couple of years, but as often happens with any tech startup, is the founders don't have a lot of business experience. Usually, I mean, in this case, graduate students. Usually, they're computer guys first, maybe business people, but usually they get what's called adult supervision. This usually goes along with getting venture capital. The investors say, "Oh, yeah, we'll give you some money, but you got to have somebody we trust in there running the place." In the case of Google, the adult supervision was a fellow named Eric Schmidt, who's been the CEO for 10 years now. Eric had been, he was an engineer. He'd been on the board of directors of Apple, resigned that last year when everybody realized that Apple and Google were kind of on a collision course. He's a programmer. And he ran Novell, which was a big computer networking company. So he had business experience. He was a CEO before of a big company. He is chief technology officer at Sun. He had a lot of experience. This is the kind of guy that you'd want running your company. Of course, this is who the venture capitalists wanted too, John Doerr and Michael Moritz. They said, oh, yeah, you need some adult supervision. So in 2001, Eric Schmidt was appointed CEO of Google. Here we are 10 years later. And kind of unheard of, Eric Schmidt steps aside, steps up. He's bounced up to the some sinecure in the upper office. He'll be out. He'll be gone soon. Gets a $100 million bonus. The guy's a billionaire anyway with Google stock. And now he's out. And who's running the company? The founder, Larry Page, is back. Sergey Brin's going to be his number 2 guy, the product guy. It's kind of like the old days. This doesn't happen that often, especially with a big company like Google. So that was a real shock. Not such a shock, although still very sad to hear earlier this week that Steve Jobs was once again taking a medical leave from Apple. Tim Cook, who is the chief operating officer, had been running Apple the last time Steve was gone, will sit in. And, after talking with medical experts, we have a great doctor in our chat room, Dr. Mom, after talking with her about the kind of treatment that Mr. Jobs had. It does look like he's not doing that well. He didn't, the original liver transplant didn't have the beneficial effect you'd hope for. Mr. Jobs asked for people to say, leave me alone. And I understand, if you were a private person, this is the last thing I'd want to, talk about. But he's not a private person. He runs a publicly held company that people invest their money in, and they have every right, if they're investing money in Apple, buying Apple stock, to know important facts about the future of Apple. And I can think of no more important fact about the future of Apple than the health of Steve Jobs. Apple is Steve Jobs. When Steve was forced out many years ago, Apple went straight down the tubes under his replacement CEOs, John Scully, what was his name? Spindler. It wasn't Eric. Herr Spindler. Gil Amelio. When they got Jobs back in the fold, the company turned around immediately. There's just no question that Apple is Steve Jobs. In a way, even Microsoft isn't Bill Gates to the degree that Apple is Steve Jobs. So, of course, it's germane. If Apple were a private company, fine, all well and good. But they're asking people for money. They're asking people to invest in them. And those people have every right to know what the future is. Apple's not saying. Mr. Jobs has asked for privacy, understandably, and I certainly won't pry. But after talking to doctors, it's pretty clear that the prognosis isn't that good, to be honest. I don't want to write his obituary, but I doubt very much he'll come back to Apple. And then that raises an issue. What happens to Apple? Do they coast along for a few years? Probably. It's funny, when they made this announcement at Apple stock lost, 5 or 6%? When they made the announcement of Google stock went up 2 or 3%. It just tells you. It just tells you how the market views it. Larry Page coming back to run Google. Maybe that's like Steve Jobs coming back to run Apple. Maybe the visionary is back. Maybe that's what it needed. There's nobody like Steve Jobs in the industry. There never has been. He's an amazing person who can take a geeky invention and turn it into a product that changes the world. He did it first with the Apple computer, then with the Macintosh, then with the iPod, then with the iPhone, then with the iPad. That's 5 products. Each have created categories that are unique. They weren't the first in the category. The iPod wasn't the first MP3 player. It was just the first good one. The iPhone wasn't the first smartphone. It was just the first good one. The iPad isn't the first tablet. It was just the first good one. The Apple I and Apple II weren't the first personal computer, just the first good one. He took something geeky and interesting and made it usable and popular, and I think you get a lot of credit for that. Yeah, the chat room, Troy P. in the chat room saying, what about the Laser Writer? Yeah, throw the Laser Writer in too. That kind of, to me, goes with the Macintosh. The Macintosh plus the Laser Writer changed publishing. Truly an amazing person. I'm going to be taking a Mac Mania cruise, Mac Mania 11 to South America, February 1st. And on that cruise, unless he cancels, but I think he will be on that cruise, Steve Wozniak. I've been really lucky to spend a lot of time with Steve on other cruises, a couple other cruises. I've interviewed him many, many, many times over the years. He was the guy who, with Steve Jobs, started Apple. And it's really clear when you meet Woz. Woz is brilliant. Woz is a visionary. Woz is an inventor, first and foremost. But it's not enough just to be the inventor. This is why often tech startups have two people. They have the brilliant inventor who can conceive of something new and unique, but they also have to have that second guy who can make it a product, make it a successful product. That's what Larry Page probably was to Sergey Brin, or certainly will be going forward at Google. It's what Steve Jobs was to Steve Wozniak. And I fear we are reaching the end of an era at Apple. I hate to say that, but I think it's appropriate to be aware of that, if nothing else. And of course, I wish Steve well, and I hope Mr. Jobs comes back to Apple healthy and hale and runs it for another 40 years. That would be my strong preference. That would absolutely be my strong preference. But I do think it's unfortunate that Apple... I understand, look, this is what happens when you have a very strong CEO. He dictates what Apple does. But Apple, as a publicly held company, has a higher responsibility to its shareholders, its stakeholders. They have to tell them. And they're not. They're not. All right, enough of the gloom and doom. Let's talk tech. 8888 Ask Leo's the number. 88, and you can yell at me and tell me I'm wrong. 8888 Ask Leo. I'll take your calls next. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Hate to begin on such a sad note. Let's cheer up. 8888 Ask Leo. I was on... I'll cheer you up. I'll cheer you up. Maybe this is sad too. I was on Regis and Kelly on Tuesday. Weirdly enough, and I didn't know this ahead of time, it was the day that Regis announced that he was going to leave the show. This was a week for transitions, wasn't it? And it was a shock to everybody. I'm sure upper management wasn't shocked. They negotiated it, but... the staff was like, what? And it's funny because I've been doing Regis and Kelly as a gadget guy for 10 years, since 2001. And I think even then, there was always the question, when is Regis going to retire? Regis was funny. He said, I'm not, I didn't say, did I say the word retire? I'm not retiring. 80 years old, almost 80 years old. And the guy has more energy and more sharp than most people on TV. He's the longest running TV host now. And he's not quitting. I think he wants to be somewhere warmer. I don't know. But I that's kind of think. It was sleeting and it was cold in New York. And I thought, I bet he'd like to be in California or Florida. Why not? But I bring that up. The cheerful thing is, after the gadget segment, I stuck around because next week on Regis and Kelly on the... I think it starts actually 2 weeks, a week from Monday. On the 31st, they're going to start a Twitter week. And one of the New Year's resolutions Regis made is to tweet more often. This is kind of funny coming from a guy who is definitely not geeky, not techie. But Kelly tweets. They have a Twitter account, Regis_and_Kelly. And Kelly tweets. When she tweets, she'll put a -K after it. And then they have a woman there who is like the official social media person for the show. Regis calls her Twitterella, and she tweets. But Regis, he hadn't been tweeting, so they said, well, Leo, can you teach Regis? I said, I can teach anyone to tweet. I'm not sure why, but... So we sat down, and I said, well, here's Twitter. This is what you do. You see where it says what's happening? There's a field there. You type in what's going on. And I said, make it personal, make it authentic, make it be a story, talk about what's going on. He said, well, what would your first tweet be? He said, well, I was thinking maybe today I announced I'm leaving the show. David Letterman called to congratulate me. Not sure what that means. I said, Regis, that's a perfect tweet because it's personal, it's real, talks about your life. A little name dropping is always good. We love with celebrity tweets to hear the behind the scenes. David Letterman called Regis. That's cool. And then it has a joke in it. This is funny. I said, Regis, you just wrote the perfect tweet. Of course he did. What a surprise. The guy understands media. So I said, okay, let's type it in. So he says, great, here's the keyboard, Regis. Okay, where's the I? I went, uh-oh. he didn't know how to type. So he's hunted and pecked it out. It's a good thing it's 140 characters. That's all I can say. I said, at the end, put -R. That's going to signify that you wrote it, not Tweeterella, not Kelly. Okay, -R. And he says, now what? I said, you see that big button there that says tweet? Press that button. Click that button. He said, press it. I said, yeah. He said, what? How? I said, with the mouse. He picks up the mouse and starts to click the screen. I said, no. I said, oh, dear. Why did they even put a computer on his desk? So I said, no. Here, let me show you how to use a mouse. So we got him. We got him clicking the mouse. This is all on tape, by the way. They'll show it on Monday the 31st. And he tweeted. And then we did a picture. He took a picture that says, I love my followers. It was really great. But here's what I loved, and this is what was the thing that moved me. I said, now you can see how people are responding. He said, responding what? I said, to your announcement, but also to your tweet. He said, already? I said, oh, yeah. Click that mentions button. So he clicked the mentions button. And then a long list of tweets saying, Regis, don't leave. We love you, Regis. And he was visibly moved. It was actually a great moment. He went, wow, where are these? Who are these people? I said, they're your followers. They follow you on Twitter. And then I said, look, see, it says 29 more just came in. He said, what? I said, yeah, click that. And 29 more messages. Regis, you're the greatest. Well, wherever you go, we will follow. He was blown away. He called his wife. He got on the phone. He said, Joy, go to Twitter. Go to Twitter right now. Look, they're saying stuff about me. I said, Regis, this is going on every day. This is a way you can have a conversation with your viewers, with your fans, with your followers. He loved it. And that was a great moment to see this guy who's literally been doing television for 60 years suddenly understand that he has this new way of not only hearing from his audience directly, immediately, in real time, but to speak to them directly. I really think, now he hasn't tweeted much since, but I can understand why. It's hard to, he's got there's a lot of typing involved. I should have showed him how to dictate it, to do a voice tweet. Anyway, I think he really was moved and touched and turned on by the idea that he could talk to his audience. That's the kind of thing that this stuff is changing. It's breaking down that fourth wall between, mass media is only about 100 years old. Before then, it was the town crier or the newspaper, whatever. It was very local. This mass media where you have somebody unreachable through that glass screen is completely new, and it's about to change again. And I think for people like Regis, I love seeing somebody who's been doing it for so long, seeing that, getting it, and saying, wow, this is exciting. 8888 Ask Leo. Of course, at Talk Radio, we've been doing that since the beginning, haven't we? That's what I love about Talk Radio. Let's take a call from Chris, Los Angeles. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Hi, Chris.
Hey, Leo. It's really cool to talk to you.
Nice to talk to you. Thanks for calling.
All right. I can't believe I'm actually I have like a million questions to ask you, but since you've got other callers, I'll try to keep it short.
Just remember, little grasshopper, the longest journey begins with the first question.
Right. Well, okay. So right now I have Sprint for wireless service, and I have a BlackBerry, and I like it. I've had a couple of them, and they're really really great phones. But I want the iPhone. I have an iPod Touch, I have an iPad, and I really like the platform, and I want to be able to sort of just kind of cut down on my gadgets and just have...
Yeah, I mean, you could have the iPod Touch is really just an iPhone without the phone. When you have an iPhone, now you can eliminate the touch.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I know they finally have switched over and are going to...
Verizon.
Sprint, and what's going on? When am I going to get one for Sprint?
Man, nobody knows. Apple doesn't tell anybody anything. I would guess, though, that this is the beginning. Look, clearly AT&T's lost its exclusivity. Verizon doesn't have exclusivity. They couldn't, or there'd be no AT&T. So it means probably that Apple can, at this point, negotiate with other companies. I would guess Verizon said, give us 6 months, please. Let us sell it for 6 months. But I would guess in 2011... maybe even with the announcement of the iPhone 5. You know what's strange about this Verizon announcement is it's really kind of in the middle towards the end of the life of the iPhone 4. People who will be on Verizon buying an iPhone 4 are going to be very surprised when come June there's an iPhone 5. They're going to say, "What? Wait, I got another year and a half of my contract. What are you talking about?" So I think it could be. I wouldn't be surprised anyway that when Apple announces the iPhone 5, talks about it, and then releases it, it's on other carriers as well. Once they've made a phone that works on Verizon, that phone will work on Sprint. So they're 99% of the way there. It's just making a deal.
Yeah, to me, to a novice here, wouldn't Apple make a lot more money if they offered their phone?
They would. They would. And I'll tell you, in fact, I was disappointed in 2007 when Apple announced the iPhone that they didn't put it on all those carriers. But because they gave AT&T an exclusive, they got a lot of leverage. And that made the iPhone unique. Scott Wilkinson coming up at 33. Stay here. Scott Wilkinson is our home theater guy. And I have some very good news. Hey, Scott.
Hey, Leo. How's it going?
It's going great. Scott is the editor-in-chief of the Ultimate AV magazine at ultimateavmag.com. He also is a columnist at Home Theater Magazine, has been one of the premier reviewers of home theater out there, and has been a regular on this show for a long time. And because I'm going to be taking a little time off next month, Scott has agreed to fill in for me, which I am thrilled. Couldn't be more happy to tell everybody. So,
well, thank you, Leo. I'm honored and privileged to have been asked to do that, and I know I can sit in for you, but I could never fill your shoes.
Oh, don't be silly. As soon as you do this, everybody's going to say, "Why aren't you let's just have a home theater show?"
Yeah.
So it will be a home theater weekend, the 5th and 6th.
Whole weekend, yeah, 5th and 6th of February. Yep.
5th and 6th.
From the cottage, in fact.
Yeah, you're going to come up here to the Tech Guy Labs, and that way, John can make you some nice coffee. You can relax. You can sit on the ball. No, we'll get you a chair. We'll get you a chair. Don't worry. You don't have to sit on the ball. So what is going on in the world of home theater?
Well, there's a ton of stuff, actually, as always. I want to hip everybody to my weekly poll question, first of all, on ultimateavmag.com, which this week is, do you suffer from 3D sickness? you know what I'm talking about.
I
right?
do. Yeah.
There are a number of people who, when they watch this stereoscopic 3D content, movies or TV, they can get headaches, dizziness, even nausea. And Samsung and Sony and others have even issued warnings. They put warnings in their manuals for these TVs, saying, if you're drinking or you're pregnant, hopefully not at the same time, or you are prone to seizures, you probably shouldn't watch 3D TV.
Well, that's no good.
No, it really isn't. And so I was curious. I really have no idea.
Have you ever had this happen to you?
Never.
Never.
I answered this question, never. There are several answers, of course, that you can post, you can click on when you first get to that question. And one of them is never, one of them is always, one of them is sometimes, depending on content. I tend to think that it might be more to do with the active shutter glasses, which actually blink on and off. And I can imagine that might cause more problems than the passive glasses. You remember seeing the passive glasses at CES.
Right.
And they were, in fact...
That's the kind you get in the movie theater.
That's the kind you get in the movie theater, primarily. There are a couple of movie theaters that use active glasses. The ArcLight in Hollywood, for example, has what's called an expand theater, and they use the active glasses, and that's pretty rare because those glasses are very expensive.
Yeah.
So the passive glasses, I think, would tend not to make one as sick as the active glasses. But then there's the issue of watching stereoscopic 3D, that is 3D TVs or 3D movies. That's different than actually looking out in the world and seeing 3D. And I believe, I wouldn't be surprised anyway, that the brain responds differently to that than it does to actually looking out in the world. So that may be another factor. So I was just curious to see among the readers what was the deal. And so far, the majority are saying, no, I never have sickness.
Really?
Yeah, exactly. So
now, I get fatigue, I think, but that's because I don't have true stereo vision. I have to kind of let my eyes go out of focus a little bit to get the 3D effect, and so I think that's just fatiguing.
That may be. Eye strain or fatigue, eye fatigue, is probably the most common malady, shall we say? Symptom, yes.
3D-itis.
The most common symptomology.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. So, it is of some concern. I mean, if the companies are putting out these warnings I think they're mostly just covering their legal ass, if you know what I mean. But there has to be at least something to it. So I was just curious. So I hope everybody goes and votes in that poll, because I would love to have a large sample to see what it is that might be going on there, if it's a big problem or if it's not.
UltimateAVMag.com. Do you
Dr.
suffer?
Yeah, sorry, I was going to say Dr. Mom in the chat room says, in her opinion, part of the problem is isolation from external visual cues.
Oh, yeah.
If you look away to things that aren't 3D, the nausea goes away. That's kind of interesting.
Right.
And being a doctor, I believe.
Well, that happens in the with car sickness. Is that your inner ear is saying you're moving one way, your eyes say you're moving another way, and it's very confusing, and it makes you nauseous. I guess that could be. Now
you're going on a cruise, right?
Yes.
When you go away,
I will not watch any 3D movies on a cruise. The car sickest I ever got was when I was on a commuter bus playing Quake. So my eyes, I'm looking at Quake, and my eyes are going one way. Yeah. My body's going another way, and I just really, that was bad.
Yeah. That was seriously bad.
Yeah.
The one thing to do when you're on a ship like that is, I've been told, look at the horizon.
Right.
So that may relate to what.
So
Dr.
maybe
Mom
every
said.
hour. Maybe they have to bring intermissions. Remember they used to have intermissions in long movies? They'd stop. Lawrence of Arabia, they'd stop and then play music so you could go get some popcorn.
Right, and then they'd sing, "Let's all go to the snack bar." iDoc Mark in the chat room says, "Go to your optometrist before you get a 3D. Go to a 3D movie or buy a 3D TV.
He'll know if you're going to have a problem."
Yeah, I would guess.
Yeah. Huh.
Now you might, as you said, you have a bit of a stereo issue yourself.
I have strabismus, so I don't use both eyes normally. I use one eye at a time. But I can resolve both eyes if I go slightly out of focus. If I think about it. And I saw Avatar in the theater, and there was snowflakes popping out at me. I almost got poked in the eye by a stick when they were running through the forest. Ow.
Right. Exactly right. Right.
Yeah. Doc Mark says, when I said, so you go to the eye doctor to get a checkup before you go to 3D, is that something you need to do? He says, no, we just need the money. Well, an honest doctor, finally. Yes.
Finally.
We just want the money.
Yeah, we just want the money.
No, he's serious. And I think it probably isn't a bad idea. And I don't know if there's anything they can do about it, but they certainly would know, for instance, if go to a 3D movie, that's fine. What are you out, $10? But if before you buy a $3,000 TV, you might want to check.
That makes some sense.
Yeah.
That really does, because that's a significant investment. Unfortunately, 3D movies are a little more than $10 these days, I'm afraid.
Oh, yeah, those IMAX movies, they set you
IMAX movies are probably pushing 20.
Are they really? Wow.
Well, yeah. My friend Tom Norton and I go on Tuesdays when it's a little bit lower, but still, normally it's 15, 18 bucks, probably closer to 20 at IMAX, maybe 15 or 16 at a regular Real D type theater. So it is a premium, but still, that's nothing compared to $2,000 or $3,000 for a 3D TV. So yeah, you might want to check that out. I've gotten a number of questions about 3D, for example, and projectors, which is kind of interesting. Kevin Horsch asks, he's interested in getting a new Optima projector. And he's interested, it's odd that some of Optima's 720p projectors are listed as 3D capable, but their HD20, which is their lowest cost 1080p projector, is not. And he wonders, is that normal? Well, it depends on the company and whether or not they want to make the projector 3D capable.
By the way, 3D capable doesn't mean 3D, does it? What is 3D ready? What is 3D capable? We only have about 30 seconds. Maybe I asked too big a question.
And it's probably a little too short to explain it in detail, but it just means that if you send it a 3D signal from a Blu-ray player,
it'll show it.
It'll show it.
Okay. As
opposed to not. And the 720p projectors, I know they've set up to be 3D ready or 3D capable with active glasses, mostly for gaming. And they're relatively inexpensive projectors. And the HD20, which I have reviewed, they decided not to. It's under $1,000. It's the least expensive 1080p projector you can get, but they just decided, not to make it to make it 3D.
We're long gone, by the way.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So
I didn't hear the music.
You don't hear the music?
I didn't until just now.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Is that a Ewok? What is that you're dancing with there?
That's a Domokon, a Japanese character from the TV.
Oh, I see that all the time, and I don't know what they are. All right, that's a Domokon.
Yeah, check out Domo on the web.
DOMO?
Yes.
Chris is the man behind a great podcast, if you're into photography, called Tips from the Top Floor. He also has his own professional photography workshops. You can find out about those and everything else at chrismarquardt.com. CHRIS.
Actually, discoverthetopfloor.com is a bit easier to find.
Yeah. Nobody can spell Marquardt.
Exactly.
You know what? If you go to techguylabs.com, we have a link to it all. But yeah, the workshops are at discoverthetopfloor.com.
Yep.
Hello, Chris.
Hello, Leo. I brought you a little photography history lesson.
I see something over your right shoulder that looks kind of cool.
No, that one? Oh, no, wait. On this side, that's just an old large format camera. It's just me showing off I have one of those.
Yeah, those are really expensive. Yeah.
No, I want to talk about the rangefinder. You know what a rangefinder is?
Well, yeah, because you know what? We were talking about these point-and-shoot cameras, and I chose the LX5, and it doesn't have a rangefinder. It doesn't have a...
Yeah.
You can't look through the little window at the picture.
Exactly. A rangefinder, actually, there are rangefinder cameras. People probably know rangefinder and connect it with cameras, but a rangefinder is actually a small device. I have one here that was available before rangefinder cameras were available.
I'm confused. What you mean? What do you look through that? What you're going to take a picture of?
This thing has a little window that you look through, and it has two windows in the front and a little wheel that you turn. And you have two pictures that you kind of have they overlay each other, two pictures of the same thing. And while you turn the wheel, they move towards each other. And once they register with each other, then on the little wheel, you can read how far away that thing is that you just focused on.
So that's when I say rangefinder, I'm really thinking of the viewfinder, the little glass thing on top of a camera. The rangefinder actually finds how far things are.
Finds the range.
The range.
And with older cameras, there were even rangefinders. Well, first of all, there were devices you could just attach to the camera because old cameras didn't have anything but the distance scale on the lens. Now, you could add a rangefinder, and then you would choose, or you would determine the distance on this little rangefinder device, look at the dial, read the distance, and then dial that in on the lens.
Lenses to this day have, on digital SLRs anyway, and I think on a lot of cameras, have the distance on the lens, like you would set it by hand.
Right. So that's what we call an uncoupled rangefinder. Now later, Leica and so on, they started adding coupled rangefinders, which means that the rangefinder device, that little thing that has these two overlaying pictures and helps you find the distance, that was coupled to the lens. So you would only turn one dial and it would automatically set the lens to the right distance. And that is really the development. The rangefinder itself is just a device to find the range.
We are so spoiled these days because our cameras do it all automatically without even thinking about it.
Most of them, yeah. And the rangefinder cameras that were pretty popular from, let's say, the 1930s to the 1970s, they were actually pretty much killed off by the SLRs and later, obviously, by the digital SLRs. But to this day, there's still one manufacturer who's producing one of the last digital rangefinders, and that is Leica. The M9,
of course.
Very expensive camera.
Of course. So you're saying that the viewfinder on that M9 is actually a rangefinder. You focus the lens until something matches up, or
on the M9, I think it is. Yeah, there was another digital rangefinder produced by Epson in conjunction with I think they worked with Cosina, the Japanese manufacturer, the RD1, and that doesn't really exist anymore. They stopped development on that. There's one rangefinder-like camera, a similar concept, not exactly the same principle, but again with this viewfinder to the side of the camera in a digital form that will come out in March, which is the Fuji X100, which I'm getting pretty excited.
Is there some reason besides nostalgia that you might want one of these?
Absolutely. There are a few things with rangefinders that really appeal to, for example, street photographers. You have this viewfinder to the side of the camera. So first of all, the camera is not that barrier in between you and what you shoot. It's more to the side. That also leaves the other eye open, so you can virtually leave both eyes open and have a better overview of the scene. And in the actual viewfinder, you see more of the scene than the lens later will see.
See, I don't want that.
Well, what it helps
that's why
you
I
do-
like an SLR, because I'm seeing what the lens is seeing.
Well, most of the SLRs today show you less than what the lens.
Oh,
later
really?
sees.
Oh.
So what the rangefinder viewfinder does is, and you might remember this from some old ones, is the bright frame inside the viewfinder that gives you an approximation of where the actual picture will be. So what you can do is you can anticipate what's going to happen. Someone's walking into the scene, you will see that person walking in there before it actually is in the picture. So that gives you time to prepare for timing critical shots, for example, and that is very important in street photography. That is why the classical rangefinder camera used to be the camera for street photographers, and it still kind of is. So whatever manufacturers will come up with in the future, I usually get pretty excited about, especially when it's in the digital realm. And let's see what we'll see pretty soon. I'm hoping that Fuji's going to do something there with the X100. Supposed to be coming out in March. It's the first kind of competition to some of the Leica offerings. So
I'm just lucky I have.
It's hard to imagine if you grew up with a DSLR or with just a digital compact. But rangefinder is a concept that I'm a bit sad that it's mostly gone.
Now, what is that camera behind you? As long as we're talking about it, it's over his left shoulder. Is it a large format camera?
That's a 4x5 inch large format.
Is it
camera
digital or is it film?
Bellows. No, it's all film. It's a 4x5 inch negative. That's you can scan some 200 megapixels out of that.
Wow!
And it's a different style of photography. We could talk about this at another time. Absolutely, this is it's interesting, and it's a different style of working, a very different style of working.
Now we are in the
global camera.
We are in the middle of an assignment, so recap this. These assignments, they're not competitions, they're not contests. It's just, really, frankly, an excuse to get you out there and taking pictures. And what should we be looking for this time?
This time, the assignment is liquid. So if you want to participate, go to Flickr, flickr.com/groups/techguy, and that page has the instructions on what to do, and you can still be there. It's not a competition. It's just a way to get some of your images reviewed. It's fun.
Yeah.
It's a lot of people. We have, I think, over 7,000 members in that group. It's really grown dramatically. And people love participating in the assignment. So liquid, do whatever you want with that word and try to make that into a picture of some sort.
Sounds great. Chris is at his own website, Chris Marquardt, ChrisMarquardt.com. Or just go to techguylabs.com and you could find Chris. And if you go to our Flickr group, and again, let me tell you how to do this. If you've got a Yahoo account, you've got a free Flickr account. If not, just create one, flickr.com. Then go to the group, search for Tech Guy, and join that group. It's free to do so. There's instructions on the assignment right there. There's mini assignments, too, that Orbit Gal gives you. It's a really... the only way to get better at photography is to take a lot of pictures. So this is just a way of doing that. It really helps to have an assignment.
Yep, it does.
Chris, great to talk to you. Thanks for joining us, and we'll talk next week. And I hope you'll be part of we're going to do a photo podcast called Mostly Photos with Lisa Bettany. Mostly Lisa.
I'm all game for that.
All excited about that. I know Chris will be a part with it, along with all the other photographers that I know, some of the best photographers in the world. Thank you, Chris.
Sure.
Leo Laporte, the Tech Guy. More of your calls coming up at 47 after the hour, just a few minutes from now. The music ran out, did it? Oh, I'm sorry. 8888 Ask Leo. I just want to see how long it'd go for. That's the phone number, 888-827-5536. Like to scare Luis. Luis Oliveira on the board there. Gina Salvati answering the phones. Luis is going, Let's get back to the phones. Kashika, Southern California. Hi, Kashika. Leo Laporte, the Tech Guy.
Hey, Leo. It's Kashka, actually.
Hi, Kashka. There's an I in there, but I'll leave it out.
That's okay. Hey, I have two quick questions for you. First, my laptop took a major dump. Luckily enough, it's on carbonite, which is still backing up after 3 days. But I was wondering, is there a place that you can send a hard drive just in case I didn't get it all on carbonite to have them recover it? Because it could only recover part of it.
Yeah, it kind of depends what went wrong. And you don't know that probably.
No, because the motherboard and the hard drive went out at the same time.
Oh, that's interesting.
I know, it was a big...
How do you know the hard drive went out?
Because they can't pull data off of it.
So you brought it to the Apple store or somebody like that?
No, I brought it to, like, you know, a tech service place.
And
But
they
I
replaced the motherboard.
No, they didn't. I bought a whole new computer. I just pulled the hard drive from that old computer so that way I would have it in case I could recover it. But I'm hoping it's all on carbonite. But I was just wondering if there's a place you can send it to and say, look at my hard drive. Can you fix it?
Yeah, there is. Depends on what's wrong with it. Okay. There are two different kinds of hard drive failures. There's soft and hard failures. If it's a hard failure, in other words, the physical media is grotesquely damaged, or the head got bent, or there's a circuit board blown.
I think so, because before it completely crashed out on me, I did do a BIOS run on it, and it said the hard drive was fine. A hard drive scan.
Okay, well, that's good. That means at least it could, you know, if there's a physical problem with it, it wouldn't even see it. So that's a good sign. In that case, so just to finish the thought, if there's a hard error like that, yeah, you go to a place like Drive Savers. The way they fix it is they've got a clean room and guys in bunny suits, and they carefully disassemble it. They've got all the different hard drives and lots of different parts, and they kind of take the platters out very carefully, put it in a new hard drive. It costs thousands of dollars.
Right, I don't want to do that.
You don't want to do that, and it's not worth it. It's probably not worth it. So if it's just a soft error, yeah. Now the problem is it's a Mac, right?
No, it's a
Oh, I thought you said it was a Mac. It's a PC. Oh, this is easy, yeah.
PC, yeah.
So if anybody who's sophisticated in the least, and that means any computer repair shop, you could probably even do it. You need to put it in another computer and scan it. Now, the first thing I'd scan it with is a thing called SpinRite. What we're going to try to do is we're going to work our way up through the problems that a hard drive could have, starting with the lowest level problem, which is bad sectors.
Right, it is a laptop hard drive.
Doesn't matter. You'll have to get a laptop mounting kit because the connectors are different. But you can mount it in a PC. They sell inexpensively laptop mounting kits. You put it in there. In fact, this is why you take it to a repair shop, because they'll have all that stuff. They put it in there. They run SpinRite on it, and it'll go through the drive. Then this could take days, looking for bad sectors, moving data off of bad sectors. If the error is a very low-level error, that'll fix it, and drive could be as good as new. If the error is not at that level, but is in fact at the file system, then they'll have to run file system recovery tools at a higher level.
Yeah, well, they tried to recover some of it, and I'm hoping they didn't get all of it. They backed up some of it for me, but I'm hoping most of it on carbonite. I do have one other quick question, and this is about the future. And I have three little boys I'm homeschooling, 5, 7, and 2. And I'm trying to decide how I'm going to introduce them to computers. Should I go?
You got plenty of time. First of all, don't rush. An iPad would be good for that age, yeah.
Because I don't want to rush them because they're going to be on them for the rest of their life.
Exactly. And just imagine how have computers changed in the last 10 years for you. Well, when they're 10 years from now, when the oldest is getting out of high school, 10 years from now, who knows what they're going to be like?
Exactly, because I ran AutoCAD 20 years ago,
right.
So that's why I know a little bit about what happens.
I think the most important thing you could do at this point, there's a few things that I would do. They're very young, so an iPad. Just the first thing is just get them so that they're comfortable with it, so that it's not a scary, strange thing. And an iPad would be a perfectly good way to do that. Then the next thing that you want to do is get them comfortable with the internet, because the internet will certainly be around. So learning how to search, learning how to find things, learning how to navigate their way through internet content. If you're homeschooling, you're probably going to do that anyway because it's such a great resource for you. It's one of the reasons it's easier to homeschool now is because we all have a library on our computer. We have every bit of information you could ever want is right there. So that makes it, I would think, considerably easier to homeschool. So you're going to be doing that. The most important thing you could teach a kid, and this won't be until starting probably in 6th or 7th or 8th grade, is critical thinking. The ability to look at information on the net and ask questions like, is this true? Is this who's saying it? Are they reliable? Are they trustworthy? Am I going to believe it? How do I find contrary opinions? Because this is something that my generation didn't learn so much. If it was in the New York Times, it was true. If Walter Cronkite said it, it was true because he was the voice of America. And you believed it because it was mainstream media. Well, I think we've learned Certainly since the Watergate era, since Vietnam, we've learned that maybe mainstream media isn't always right. And their generation is going to be getting information from thousands of sources, some of them good, some of them not so good. And they need to be able to make the distinction. They need to know how to use the internet, how to navigate it, how to find information, but most importantly, how to value that information. So that's something, but you won't be teaching them that for another 5 or 6 years. But soon, that's going to be the most important skill that they could learn. They'll be comfortable with technology. It's all around them. They live with it. And who knows what it's going to look like in 10 years? It's probably not going to look anything like it looks today. So getting them comfortable with the general idea is great. I also think media literacy, both in terms of how to consume it, but also how to create it, is important. You give them a camcorder or a digital camera. Get them used to the idea of editing video, of making audio, of creating, of writing blogs, of creating a website. These are good tools for anybody to learn, but especially for kids coming up. I think that's a great thing. So information literacy, both in consuming and creating content. You got some time there. 7 years old is the oldest. That you still have some time. But I think that's great, Kashka, that you're doing that. Wonderful. Ask Leo. Lee is in Santa Monica, California. Our next caller, listening to the great KFI, the mothership. Hey, Lee.
Yes, I'm here.
Welcome. What can I do for you?
I'm going to purchase a digital recorder and player for the TV, a DVD.
Mm-hmm. You mean like
and
a
you would recommend for a good price?
You mean like a DVR, like digital video recorder, or what do you want to record to? A hard drive or a DVD?
Probably to a DVD.
I like Panasonic, makes some very nice ones. Humax, H-U-M-A-X, kind of a name a lot of people don't know, makes one that has TiVo built in. I love TiVo. I'm a TiVo fan. So it has the TiVo capability, has a hard drive in it, but also has a DVD burner in it, which is a great combination. So you can record, you want to record the football game, you record it. You want to save it for posterity, you can burn it to a DVD, and you've got it. So that's a good combination. Panasonic, good brand. They make a number of these. They're very good. But at Humax, if you can find it, H-U-M-A-X, because they have TiVo software, which I think is fantastic. Bob in Ohio, you're next. Hey, Bob, Leo Laporte, the tech guy.
Hey, Leo, how's it going?
It's going great. Welcome.
Hey, I just purchased a video projector, and I'm looking, of course, it needs to be calibrated. And
yeah, in fact, and Scott Wilkinson, our home theater guy, will tell you this, that if you're getting a nice TV, a good HD TV, get it calibrated. It's a few $100, but it will be much more accurate than if you just take the existing settings and accept them. Now, he says that. I have yet to do it. So, I live with it, and it looks fine to me. Maybe he's a little bit more of a perfectionist than I am.
Well, I guess when you're going from a 50-inch television to a 106-inch screen, it makes a big difference.
Yeah, the bigger the screen, the more defects you'll see. One thing for sure, I don't know if this is true of projectors, but certainly direct view displays will come out of the box set usually to something called dynamic, or they have different names for it, but really what it's intended for is the showroom floor. They're extra bright, extra pop, and it's not what you want in your living room. But what's funny is if you've left it on that, you'll be used to it, and then if you set to movie or another mode, you have 3 or 4 modes in the TV, and they're on the remote, and you'll say, "Oh boy, movie looks just so boring and dark." Well, that's how it's supposed to be. And once your eyes get used to it, it will be better. So the first thing I would do is make sure it's not set on dynamic, but have it set on movie, and usually that'll give you a better result. What a calibrator will do is they'll come in and they'll fine-tune it. Not all sets can be fine-tuned, but if it can be, they'll come in, they'll fine-tune it. Often they'll use machinery to test color reproduction and see if you're getting the colors you expect. Especially on a projector, this would be important because it's impacted by your screen, how far away it's from the screen, the ambient light. So even more than a direct view, a projector probably could benefit a lot.
Sure. Well, I ended up getting the BenQ 6000, and it's not your what you call your higher end, but it's one of the brightest projectors that are out.
Yeah, BenQ's the old Acer, and I think they make some great hardware. I haven't seen their projection displays, but I think people have forgotten about projectors, and it's really the best way to get a really big screen. It's certainly the only affordable way for most people to get a really big screen.
I've been researching them for several years. I've been wanting to finish my home theater in regards to putting a nice, good-sized picture on the wall instead of listening to great sound with a 40-inch television.
Now, one thing I would do that maybe is more important than getting a calibrator is getting a screen. You're not projecting it on a painted wall, are you?
No, I already got a screen for it.
Good. A screen will make a difference. And Scott's also told us about there's paint you can buy. It has crystals in it that actually reflect the light from the projector that are much more like movie screens. Either way, you definitely don't want to project against a flat white wall. A lot of people do that. If you were doing that, I'd say before you get a calibrator, do at least get a screen.
Well, I did purchase it before I got a screen just to make sure in regards to the size of the wall and everything like that.
Good.
Then once I figured that out, went ahead and bought a screen. I even talked to BenQ and the people I bought it from in regards to what the best screen would be for that.
Is it a DLP projector?
Yes, it's DLP.
Well, you're probably getting a very, I'm not surprised because that's the brightest probably. You're probably getting a very nice picture.
Yeah, it is a good picture. BenQ isn't known. I did some reading on it, and they're not known for having the best picture out of the box. But once it's calibrated, it's a really good picture.
Well, you can if price, budget is an issue, budget consideration is an issue. There is a DVD called DV Essentials. They make it in both DVD and Blu-ray. Digital Video Essentials, or DVE, that you could buy. Amazon sells it. Joe Kane made it, who was one of the kings of this. And it will get you a good deal of the way to a calibrated set. It's a good thing to have anyway. Digital Video Essentials is $22 on Amazon. So that would be the first place to go. And then, you can hire people who do this. There are a couple of different certifications. You want somebody who's certified. He's not just making it up. He knows what he's doing. He's been trained. I think Dolby is one of the certifications. Scott Wilkinson went through a certification, I think, at either Dolby or THX. So there is a certification process, and I would look for somebody who is certified. ISF, that's the other one. ISF.
That was one of my questions. I was wondering if there was a big difference in between purchasing software for calibrating or getting a professional to come out and do it.
Yeah. Well, professional have some additional hardware. The DVD is using your eyes. The professional will have some hardware. He'll know a little bit more. So THX or ISF, maybe Dolby as well. Make sure they're certified. And I think that they can do a pretty good job at getting it. Well, they'll optimize it. Let's put it that way. Have you noted? Are you saying that you don't like what you're seeing, Bob, or you just want to make sure you're getting the best?
Well, that's it. Right now, I haven't actually calibrated yet. I've kind of adjusted it like you would a regular television.
Right. Like I said, I haven't done it either. I did get the Digital Video Essentials disc from Joe Kane, and I ran through that, and that, to me, it looks fine. It looks good. In fact, I love how it looks, and I don't want a calibrator coming in and telling me, oh, no, your blues are too blue, your reds are too red, and what the heck is that green thing? And they'll adjust it. That's, I don't have golden eyes. It looks good to me. You're looking for it to be natural, to be real, to be like the movie looked in the theater. And I think with DVE, you can get really close. That's probably what I would recommend. And, there are places that, consultants will do this without an install, but a lot of times you have to get, a full install, and that's pretty expensive. By the way, the Humax, people have been asking about that Humax. It is available from my friends at Weaknees, WeakNees.com. That's the TiVo Plus DVD recorder that we were talking about. Weaknees.com. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Looks like they only have refurbished.
I spend a lot of the time on this show talking about shiny new gadgets.
But that's the thing to get, though, if you can get that.
The ones just lying around, cell phones, laptops, cameras. You know, that's cash lying around. Take my advice on that. Use Gazelle.com and cash in. Gazelle.
These guys are the guys to go to in general.
Selling and recycling your used gadgets easy. You just go to Gazelle, GAZELLE.com. Find your item from over 20 different categories, thousands of items. Get an offer, ship it to Gazelle.com. They pay the postage, and then they pay you with a check, PayPal, Amazon gift card, or even donate it to charity. The whole process takes about a week, and you're going to love it. I just talked to Dina in our chat room. She just paid her rent with Gazelle.com. A whole month's rent.
Did you hear that, Dina? I mentioned you in the ad.
Gadgets can help you get new ones. The average customer earns over $100 every time they get.
Hope that's okay.
I want you to do it too. I do it all the time.
Dina's in our chat room. I think she was there earlier. She's the one trying to get me to do that frogs thing.
But you got to use Leo 5 on the checkout page.
Is that okay, Dina? Do you mind that I did that?
It's a crazy world.
I should have asked you first.
I'll tell you, the security has become a real.
I just thought that was so cool.
Windows users is probably the #1 question we get on this show.
You're famous, Dina.
I get asked, how do I protect my
Golly!
from spyware, from malware, viruses, worms, Trojans, keystroke loggers, all those little beasties, phishing scams? And the answer is always the same.
Well, it's dumb of me not to ask. I should have asked.
No Open Doors 32 from ESET. It's the most advanced.
Yeah, I'll give you royalties. I'll give you a frog.
The signatures.
I'm sending you a frog. I got to raise it first.
Your system down. That's very important. So it's protection. You don't.
You know, I have to say the thing I like about Pocket Frogs, it looks complicated.
5 out of 5.
I like the idea that it's like there's some mastery involved.
Go to ESET.
I bought the LX5. I actually bought the S95 first, but it was back ordered, and I was afraid I wasn't. I would have preferred the S95, but I was afraid that I wasn't going to get it in time for the cruise. But on the other hand, I know the LX3. I love the LX3. I like the ability to go from 16:9 to 4:3 to 1:1, which is very cool. It's got a great lens. That Leica lens is spectacular, and it shoots AVC HD movies. So there's something to be said for that. But I think the S95, I wanted it because it was so compact. No, I don't play Cityville. I only play We Rule. We do not edit on the TriCaster because it creates an MPEG-2 file. It's a little difficult to edit. So what we're doing now and what we do with all our shows is at the same time as I record a TriCaster version for reruns, that's kind of the raw, unedited version, we also are recording in Final Cut Pro. So the video, and this is how I screwed up incidentally with iPad today. I forgot to start the Final Cut recording, and I forgot to start the TriCaster recording. So we had to get a recording from BitGravity because they also record everything. Justin seems to have stopped. I don't know why. I don't know if that's Justin's just changed how they do stuff. My mic is very hot. How do you like it? It's so hot. The software I use to stream Twit AM is Icecast. The actual Icecast software is running on a Linux server. My life is very much a success. I have a lovely family. I have kids I adore. I'm surrounded by friends. I love my work. Yeah, I don't know how I could have done it any better. I'm very lucky, very fortunate. I'm a little scared that I may be overreaching with this new building, but what the hell? You got to try to get anywhere, right? And poor Eileen's going to kill me. She's sitting at a table out here. I got to get her an office. It's all for you, Eileen. You know that. It is. It's so you can have an office. No, because I can't keep you sitting at a table. You need an office.
Being near you here in the studio.
Well, that's you're going to be. Well, we'll have to talk. But I mean, we have an office for you. But you could sit in my office.
Leo, you have Carbonite Consumer Live Read.
Okay. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. 8888 Ask Leo, that's the number. We only have a few more minutes, though, so you know what? Save that for next week. We're running out of time here. Let's go to John in Sarasota, Florida. Hi, John. Leo Laporte.
Hey, Leo. How you doing? Thanks for the show.
Thanks for listening. What can I do for you?
I've got a 5th generation iPod 8 gig, and I can't restore it when I go to the correct site, the Apple site, iTunes, etc. It starts the process, and it tells me that there are some files missing, and then it backtracks.
Interesting. Files missing for the restore.
It doesn't say. It just says files missing.
Huh.
I don't know.
That doesn't sound like there's anything wrong with the iPod. It sounds like there's something wrong with iTunes.
Okay, well, I've got the latest 1.0, I think it is, and I've downloaded that twice.
Of iTunes? You're on Windows, aren't you?
Windows XP, and yes.
Yeah, I have to say that iTunes on Windows is always an adventure. Always an adventure. So you've got iTunes, not 1, but iTunes 10, I hope.
Yes.
Yeah, the very latest. But when it restores, it's restoring from the firmware files that are stored in iTunes, and it sounds like that those got damaged or corrupted or something is messed up. One way you could, well, let's see, how are we going to do this? You know, it's an iPod Nano, 8 gigabytes.
Yes, 5th generation. It's got the little movie camera on the back.
Yeah. I'm thinking what would be the best process here.
Okay.
So what it does, what a restore does is it has iTunes has stored the firmware that you're going to replace.
Right.
And what I'm guessing is when it says it can't find a file, that's the file it can't find. Now iTunes isn't responding properly. It should. What it should do is say, I don't have it. Let me get it, download it, and then do the install. Does it attempt to download it?
Yes, it gets all the way, and then it says files missing, and then it backtracks what it's done. It's sort of like,
so is it attempting to download a file from the internet?
I don't know.
Yeah, I'm almost certain that iTunes is screwed up. I'll give you a kind of the default fix for iTunes on Windows. First, uninstall it. In fact, uninstall all Apple software. So at least uninstall it and QuickTime.
Right.
Just, get rid of it. Then you're going to download QuickTime by itself first. You go to apple.com/QuickTime and get QuickTime for Windows and just download that by itself. Often, when you normally get iTunes, it installs both, and sometimes that QuickTime install fails. So let's just do the QuickTime first. Then download the latest version of iTunes directly and reinstall it. It'll say, oh, I see you have QuickTime. I don't need to install that. Have you already done all that?
No, I haven't. I have actually uninstalled it, and then I get a window with two little boxes. It says completely remove or reinstall correcting files. And I've done that twice.
Completely remove it.
Okay.
Completely remove it. And then try the restore. And then the other thing that sometimes happens is you need to do a DFU, which is a very hard restore on the iPod. It's a more serious restore than just reinstalling the firmware. And that will perhaps, I don't think that's the issue. I don't think there's anything wrong with your iPod. I think it's actually iTunes doesn't have the software it's trying to install.
Right. Okay, so I'm going to completely uninstall QuickTime and iTunes, then just install QuickTime on its own.
Yes.
And
then install
iTunes on its own.
Yes. And then try it. And if it doesn't, then you're going to want to do a DFU. The other thing you can do, and Apple's pretty good about this, if you've got an Apple store nearby, make an appointment at the Genius Bar, bring it in, and they can do it too.
Okay, one other thing. Thank you very much for that. Internet Explorer, are you suggesting Google Chrome instead for the browser?
Yeah, I'm not fond of Internet Explorer. And, when she was telling me earlier that she was getting all these pop-ups, it told me that she's not only using Internet Explorer, but she's using an old version of it. Because the new version, IE8, blocks pop-ups. So I would, it's a clue to me that she's using probably Internet Explorer 6, which was a security nightmare. If you're using IE8, if you're using the latest version, you're probably fine. I mean, Microsoft's done a good job with that. I happen to prefer Firefox and Chrome. It's certainly not, there's no harm to having additional browsers. Use the one you like the best. But whatever you do, don't use IE6. That's the real advice there.
Okay, thank you. And just going back to the iPod for a quick second, would one of the problems be I'm trying to import non-iTunes music into iTunes? Would I have screwed anything up there?
No, that shouldn't do it at all. I think that for some reason that firmware is missing, and I think a reinstall should bring it back. There will be a download. You will have to download the latest firmware from Apple when you do that. And you'll be going to whatever the current version is. I'm not sure. 4.2.1.
Yeah, there is a button there that you click to. It says get the latest firmware. It tells me mine's up to date. But
oh, it does. Okay, well, so it's saying I'm not going to download it. You already have it, but then it says, but wait a minute, it's something's missing here. I think that's what's going on. Yeah. Yeah, I think there's something there. The reinstalling should kind of reset iTunes to say, hey, you need it, download it, and then let's hope you get a clean download then and you can install. And thanks for the call. Appreciate it, John. We're going to get back to the phones in just a second. I think David's coming up from Long Island, and next will be Bob, who wants to do a dual boot. More than one operating system on the same computer. Yes, you can. Yes, you can. Bob in Southern California. You're next. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Hi, Bob.
Hi, Leo.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm on a dual boot. I have Win 7, 64-bit.
Okay. What do you want to? What is the second operating system you want to install?
I want to go with XP 32-bit.
Okay, the easiest way to do that is to start with XP because, of course, XP, if you put an installer disk in now, will look at Windows 7 and say, I don't know what that is. It's an operating system from the future. I don't know how to do that. On the other hand, when you have currently installed an older version of XP and you install Windows 7 knows about XP. It'll say, oh, I see you already have Windows 7 or Windows XP. Would you like me to install on top of it, or would you like to make a two boot system? That's the easiest way to do it. But you don't want to uninstall 7. You want to do it. So the first thing you're going to have to do is partition the drive. Well, okay, actually, there's something even easier. Depending on
two drives. Leo.
Okay, you have 2 drives, that's fine. You could run it in a virtual machine. If you don't need a lot of performance out of XP, if you just want to run it 1 or 2 XP programs that don't work in 7, then I would say go to virtualbox.org and get a copy of that. It's free, and then or VMware. Microsoft even has Virtual PC for free, and you could then run an instance of Windows XP under Windows 7. That's a lot easier. But if you need all the performance, if you want to say, when I'm in XP, I want to own that box, then the way to do it is to install XP on that second drive. It's going to screw up the master boot record of Windows 7. So you'll then have to go back and either reinstall 7, and actually it's just a fix at this point, it's not a full install, to fix the master boot record, or use a boot manager to fix the master boot record and create a dual boot system. It's a little tricky going from 7 to XP because XP is going to clobber the boot record. It's going to say, I don't know what this Windows 7 is, but I want the whole machine for myself. Actually, the Windows 7 Pro you have also has XP mode. That might be another way to do it. That's a virtual machine as well. Hey, thanks for the call. Thanks for listening. Have a great weekend, and I'll see you next week. Leo Laporte, the Tech Guy.